Master the business of speaking with your hosts, Taylor and Austin. You're listening to Technically Speaking.
Welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. We're your hosts, Taylor and Austin. In today's episode, we're talking about speaker management companies. Now, we have covered this topic fairly in depth. We've talked about bureaus, we've talked about agents, we've talked about management companies, how they're defined, how to build a relationship with one, how to find them. But one thing we haven't done is get a peek behind the curtain of how one of these organizations is actually run. Now, as we've learned from our previous podcast episodes, speakers bureaus, speakers agents, and speaker management companies, they're all slightly different from one another. And so today we are unpacking what behind the scenes looks like from a speaker management company's perspective. Now, we're hanging out today with Amy Tomczyk, an owner of a speaker management company. Conveniently, we're talking with her about what her business looks like, what she looks for in clients, how she manages her clients, and what the inner workings of her business are like. Now, Amy has been running a speaker management company since 2013, and she partners with premier speakers to create their strategy, market, negotiate, sell, and run the entire back office of their business. But as we'll learn in our episode, not everyone is cut out or ready for a speaker management company to manage them yet. And so we're unpacking, when are you ready for that? And what does that person do for you? And what's the difference between a speaker manager and a VA for all of the other miscellaneous things you need in your business? This episode, Austin and I learned a ton, and as always, we hope you do too. And stick around until the end for some awesome resources. See you in there.
I definitely should not be the person trying to come up with some sort of like podcast audio.
I was going to say, we should
music.
definitely just make your sounds the intro for our podcast.
That's a bad idea. We'll lose all of our listeners.
Was that your theme song?
No. It might be, though. Season 3, we might get Austin to do that for us. So,
yeah.
Oh, man. This is good. Amy, we're live. We made it here. Welcome to Technically Speaking. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
For sure.
So good to have you. We've attacked this angle, the bureau, agent, speaker, manager thing in a few different ways, but I don't think ever as clearly as we want to talk about the speaker manager angle with you today. So this is going to be awesome. Our people are going to be very excited. I am very excited to learn a lot from you along the way. So thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about it too. It's a unique position and I really love doing it.
Heck yeah. Well, so like, what was your journey like? Like, how did you end up in the space? I mean, what we found at least is people don't just like decide, like they don't grow up and be like, I want to be a speaker manager one day or work with speakers. So what was that journey like?
Right. My most recent job, I had the pleasure of working with Dan Buettner at Blue Zones. And the Blue Zones are the healthiest, longest lived places in the world. Oh. So I started with Dan in 2006 when it was just an idea. He had written a first magazine article for National Geographic and was working on his first book. And so it was just the beginning of a brand. And I was part of the team that went through that whole journey of finding more locations where people were living long and healthy and finding out what was unique and special about those locations. And then creating community programs and school programs, workplace programs, grocery store programs, so that we were helping communities make the healthiest choice the easier choice. And as that whole brand was taking off, a big part of our business was having Dan and other people in what we were calling the Blue Zone Speaker Bureau go out and proclaim that message to places and appear in front of big associations and big corporations, to just tell people these are the things that you can do to live longer, to be more connected with your family and your friends, and just to have a happier life overall. And when I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and out on my own, the part that I thought would be most relevant and easiest for me to do on my own was to be a speaker manager. So I did that with Dan for the first year as I started to acquire additional clients, and now have been doing it for over 9 years on my own.
Wow, man, so cool. You saw an opening, something that you can do to contribute value, something that you liked doing, and you went for it. That's like
Exactly.
ideal entrepreneurial story.
Heck
And
yeah.
so I just want to understand this Blue Zones business model. So this was kind of like a train the trainer situation where you guys would train other people to teach on your content, or these were people that were involved in the organization that would go
Most,
speak in
right.
addition to, or
Yes, I would say 85% of it was Dan Buettner, our founder, CEO, the real voice of our business. And then as we grew, we had other people, myself included, who were part of an internal speakers bureau that would go out and share that message. I got invited myself to be able to do a TED Talk. So it was a TEDx talk
Whoa.
in Montclair, New Jersey. So I did that quite a few years back now, but it has over 50,000 views.
yeah,
So,
Holy
I was checking
cow.
it out. I think it's up to like 70,000.
oh, it
I
is. Oh
was
my gosh.
yeah,
Okay.
good
Wow.
job.
I don't, I don't listen to my own TED Talk very often, but
Yeah,
Hey,
um,
we know what that's like.
I don't blame you. Every time
hey,
I see an episode of this come up, I'm like, oh boy, I can't. Hopefully it was good originally because that's the last time I'm watching it.
Yeah, that's right.
that's right. Yeah, but I like the behind the scenes stuff way better than being in front of a whole bunch of people and trying to stay upright and not pass out.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we can relate for
Understandably.
sure.
Yep.
So, like, when did you decide to branch out, like, from Blue Zones then, like, and go off and do the speaker manager thing? What was that transition like?
Yeah. So that was over 9 years ago. And
Wow.
like I said, I had that foundation of Dan having a really busy speaking business and calendar and lots of leads coming in. So it was a really easy transition to be able to have that foundational money available to myself as I gained more clients and really got clear on what my business model was going to be, who my ideal client was, and where I was really going to be able to make the most contribution and also be able to have the highest possible living for doing what I like to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So we have to do this with every episode
Okay.
involving speaker services. We got to ask the definition question. So, like, from your perspective, what does a speaker manager do?
Right. So I have a really unique business in that I am partnered one on one with a speaker and I really walk the whole journey with them. So at any one time, I probably only have 7 to 12 clients. My load is a little lower now than it had been just because of the COVID and having events be a little slow to catch on right now. But yeah, I partner with people from beginning to end running their business. So typically every year we sit down and we have a big strategy meeting where we set all of our goals for the year. We also have quarterly check ins on those. And I'm coaching and holding them accountable and also taking responsibility for some of those tasks throughout the entire year. I handle all of the leads. So all the leads come directly from me to me. I set those up to have that initial phone call, nurture those leads, hear what that customer is looking for, customize a response for that customer, and make sure that I send a follow up that has a ideal speech description or two or three for them to choose from. And then continue to follow up on that lead. So I'm the person that's sending that email every 2 weeks or so. Hey, have you made a decision? I send them updated information. I send them a testimonial. I send them a video link just to keep nurturing that and closing that lead. And then I negotiate the contract. I handle all of the signatures for that, making sure all the terms are consistent, how everyone wants them. And then I coordinate all the logistics, including invoicing. So, really, my speakers get to focus on the things they love doing, which is research and writing. Most of them are authors. So, they love customizing their talks for the new things that they're learning about their industry, and then going and delivering their talks. And they don't love the backside and running their business. And that's what I handle 100% for them.
Wow.
Wow. The real
So
white glove
valuable.
experience, the
That's
expert
right.
being the expert, you doing your expertise, and together the business is operational. That's what it sounds
Right.
like, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you
Wow.
guys do a lot of the same things, but I'm really the implementer.
That's
So a
right.
lot of the speakers that I work with, maybe they just don't love doing the things that it takes to run the business. It's a lot of repetition. It's just working that process over and over and over again. And it's not their skill set, it's not what they enjoy doing. And they feel like having somebody represent them just provides a bigger vision for who they are in the world and just sort of the quality of what is happening, and then they don't have to get personally involved in negotiating things and following up on things themselves. They can hand that off to somebody who has that experience and that savvy and actually the interest and passion about doing that work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it makes everybody more efficient, which is and effective, so people can stay in their zone of genius, which is
Yeah,
super
exactly. Right
awesome.
people in right seats all the
Yeah,
way.
that's right. Heck yeah. Um, so like, how do you know like a speaker is good to work with as a speaker manager? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for?
Right. So typically people can kind of handle their own leads until they're about at the 100K level, I would say. So
Uh-huh.
once they're regularly getting 7,500, $10,000 for an event, they're getting enough interest in what they're doing that they either have too many leads coming in or they're just really at a tipping point where they're ready to partner with me, and they have enough income that they can start sharing some of those resources with somebody else who's a proven expert and knows what they're doing. So that's usually
Gotcha.
the best time. And then, exponentially together, we can really take that and make that, that leap from the 100K to 200, 250 pretty close to the next year, just because of the volume that we're able to churn together. And what I know about how to optimize a speaking business and how to negotiate, it really helps because a big part of what I do all the way is coaching them to
Mhm.
on how to really make sure that they're presenting themselves in the best possible way to get those referrals from every single event that they do.
So, how much of what you do would you say is based off of going out and like hunting for new business yourself versus fielding the inquiries that are coming inbound to your clients? And I think
Yeah.
the bigger picture here is like, is somebody that doesn't have a lot of inbound a candidate for somebody like you?
Right. No, unfortunately, what I have
Mhm.
found that is 98% is incoming. And usually that is from doing a phenomenal job when you were up on stage or in a video. And you have identified your ideal client within that group. Who is your potential purchaser for a future event? What are their pain points? What are the things that they need to hear? What are your particular solutions and your way of helping them, and making sure that they hear and see that? So when you're done speaking, you're getting at least 5% of that audience, that ideal audience that could be purchasing, coming up to you and handing you their business card or connecting on LinkedIn saying, we need to have you come in and talk to our people because you know us, you know what we need, you've got what we need, and we can't wait to have you in. And so that's sort of the target that I help and coach all of my speakers to obtain, so that we're continuing to build that pyramid of referrals. I have done some outbound research and trying to fill out RFPs. And I will always do that if a speaker is interested in my doing that. I say my success rate is usually about 1% on that.
Oh, yeah.
It it's really quite low. The only way that those sometimes work is if you know someone else who has either been a speaker at that event before and can introduce you, or you know someone who's part of that association, or know someone who knows someone, or corporation. It's just like finding a job. You that networking and those connections really make a lot of difference. But again, 98% of it is incoming leads, and that's when I'm kind of sitting in that ideal client spot.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find like because from our experience working with speakers, they often speak in front of different audiences, like some will occasionally have corporate, some will have associations, and that's obviously a gold mine for getting referrals and things. Do you find that it's can be difficult to generate referrals depending on like who they're speaking to, or should it always be a rule of thumb that you should be able to get referrals from any business that you're speaking in front of?
Yeah, I agree that there are certain audiences that people should strive to be in front of
Okay.
because of the likelihood of spin-off business.
Right. So that's the ones you
Um,
want to prioritize.
Mhm, exactly. And sometimes people need to be aware that they may want to adjust their fee in order to be in front of that audience. So
Oh,
I would never say, you want to reduce your fee more than 20%. I don't believe in a race to the bottom just to be in front of certain people. But right, sometimes you're at a large company event and 90% of the people there aren't going to have a way to refer you to anything else. But I
gotcha.
also believe in the powers of the universe and that if you make a big enough impact, that those people also have connections. So many individual contributors, have other people that they know. I heard this phenomenal speaker this week when they're talking with their friends over the weekend, or they know someone who is sometimes looking for something.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the power of referral still works, but you're right. There are better audiences for that than others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you find that there are some audiences that you could see as a pattern? Like we've seen that associations typically are great for spin because they're made up of other companies that can hire you. But what other audiences have you maybe seen that tend to lead to spin more frequently than others?
Yeah, it really depends on the speaker and what their, where they are a thought leader, right?
Mm,
So, one of the things that I really believe in is to find your smallest viable audience. So, to think that you're a speaker who speaks on leadership and change management and how to navigate the unknown. Well, join the list of a bazillion other people who say that that's their thing. You need to have something that's really unique about themselves. So I work with a woman named Chris Heater at the Wild Institute, and she uses her experience in dog sled racing and trekking, as well as canoe guiding, to sort of create this whole theme of the things that she talks about. So she's got amazing stories. She's very memorable. She occasionally brings a dog on site. She talks about how each of the dogs have a different personality. And, some are a little more lazy, some are really ambitious and ready to go, but you can't rein them in and they're kind of wild. And so her stories about dogs really transfer to workplace teams, but she becomes so memorable because of the analogies that she connects, that she gets a ton of referral business because she's taken those ideas of inclusivity and leadership and bringing your whole wild self, and people really relate to them.
yeah. So part of it's just discovery, so a little bit of trial and error, it sounds too, with the audiences that you're in front of. And I would imagine doubling down on the types of events that are producing the most spend for you to then get more leads. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, I
that
mean,
makes sense.
there's a strategic plan. I would never encourage anyone to say yes to everything, right?
Nice.
To be more intentional and choosy about the types of work that you want to do, what your rate is. That just sets you apart as a professional.
For sure.
And to be able to raise those expectations as you move along in the speaking business is everybody's goal.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Definitely.
So that was super helpful. Um, I have a question regarding a little bit more around the logistics of like your work with clients. So specifically, what I've found is that sometimes there can be a gray area between a speaker manager and a VA, almost like expectation wise of a speaker, where because you do so much, you're able to take leads, follow up with them, do the invoicing, the contracting, the negotiation. Like, is there a line that gets drawn between the other things that maybe can seep into some of that work? Like, some things that come to mind are like managing an email list and sending out emails like in bulk, and just some other things that tend to fall under the VA category. Like, is there a line that gets drawn there, or is it all of the back office? Can you help us understand that a bit more?
Yeah, thanks. Right. I don't specialize in social media or sending out the emails. I do help with content development on the
Okay.
emails, but usually my speakers also have a VA that sort of handles their calendaring that doesn't involve speaking. Their marketing and email lists, like you said, and then doing all of their social and their posting on LinkedIn. So
Right.
I help and often proofread or sometimes even write a first draft for a lot of content, but I'm not doing the ongoing social posts on a
I see.
4 times a week basis. The other thing, what I think I really add value to is some people think that they can hire a VA and just ask that person to follow up on a lead
Yeah.
because all the client is asking is, are you available and what's your fee? Well, it's a much more complicated question than that, right? Every single time. If you are getting that warm of inquiry, that needs to be handled in a really specific way with somebody who knows the speaking business. Like I said before, can listen to what the client needs, customize a response to them. I often use the same terms and the same jargon that I hear that client using so that I'm parroting back to them, that I really am representing the speaker that will do a great job for them, and setting up those expectations from the very first contact. I really don't like putting fees in an email. I will always ask for
Mhm.
a phone call and try and get them to share a budget number before I would ever write down a number or provide a number for them. And so it's just the nuances of that, and also being able to have a conversation and see what else might be helpful for them. So things that we're adding a lot now are a promo video, maybe an interview or a podcast or something ahead of the event. Then also doing social posts when that speaker is at the event, doing a follow up article or a follow up video if we don't get to all the questions at the end of the keynote. And so we like to talk about now providing keynote speaking packages that really give multiple touches that can help reinforce that message over and over again. And sometimes we even can provide multiple months worth of content that again helps that organization or association have multiple touches with their people and reinforces the messages from that keynote over and over again. So it's not just a one and done and then you're on the next plane out of there, but you've really developed a relationship with this organization where they're almost creating a whole theme and a journey forward with these new ideas and sharing that enthusiasm for this new way of looking at their challenges based on what they heard in that keynote.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
man,
that.
you are truly an expert.
Yeah, for
uh,
real.
Something that I think people forget about is like this is a for one, a relationship oriented business, but for two, it's a very consultative business. Like the best, most successful speakers out there are the ones that are able to make recommendations and suggestions and really help drive home the points and solve the problems that they're being brought in to, solve. And I think it's easy to think that anybody could just plug into this process of, hey, are you available? What are your fees? Because they think of it as like selling tickets or something to your calendar, but
Yeah.
it's totally not that. Like if you really
Right.
want to create an impact and also be as lucrative as possible while doing it, it takes this consultative selling approach. And so this is it's clear why having somebody that's specialized in this space could be so valuable relative to hiring a VA or whatever to do the job.
Yeah, Austin, that just reminded me of something that we did with one of my clients quite early in on COVID. So early spring 2020, we made a checklist of all of the things that you need to do before a virtual event.
Mm,
So, like the day before when you're doing the tech run through, the day of tech check, and then what are the roles of the host and how do you use chat? And we just had this list of literally 35 things. So, because so many of our clients had never done a virtual event before, but we had gotten, 5 or 10 under our belt, and we were seeing these stumbles happening over and over again. And to create a really much more meaningful experience, it needed to have such nitty gritty detail, so close, like hardwire into your Ethernet. You can't rely on Wi-Fi if you have three other adults in your home that are also trying to work from home or do school or whatever was going on. And so that became such a value add to all of our clients. So again, it's like seeing the need, coming up with something that's going to be really meaningful and impactful, and helping make the event a stellar experience for everybody. That really helps with the spin-off business, because then the event planners talking to other event planners, people who attend, are like, that was far and away so much better than anything else I'd ever seen. And it just creates a better brand experience for everybody.
yeah. Man, that makes so much sense. Amy, you can tell you've done this for a while. So, yeah, like Austin said earlier, a true expert. And man, your speakers are lucky to have you for sure. Um, One question I get all the time regarding speaker managers, for those who haven't worked with a speaker manager before, is like, what's the expectation of the working relationship? Like, does that person have an email under my domain? Do they plug into my existing systems, or does a speaker manager have their own systems that they're using behind the scenes? They're not inside of our systems. I think some folks don't really understand the dynamic of working with the speaker managers as it relates to their own internal like workings. Could you help me understand that some more?
Right. Yes. So for the way that I work, I definitely have an email under all of the domains of the speakers that I
Nice.
work with. So I look like I am very much a part of the team, and I am an integral part of that team. And I do have probably daily, if not multiple times a week, contact with all of my clients.
Nice.
So we're just constantly in communication. We also share a lot of documents and files. So I have some clients that are on a Google system, some use Dropbox, some use Microsoft 365, but there are multiple shared things so that they can check in on what is the status of all of the leads, where are we with the details. And so any question that they have is always available within their own folder system to be able to know the answer, or they can just email or text me and I will immediately give them the answer too if they don't want to dig around for it.
Heck
Ah,
yeah. No,
man,
that's good.
focused on making your people's lives easy. I like that.
Easier.
Well, yeah,
That's right.
that's really one of the best compliments that I ever got was pretty early on. One of my speakers said, "You know who values you the most? Like, I really value you, but my wife really values you the most." Because I am available for 2 more hours every day, so from 4 to 6 every day. I used to have to follow up and send my bio and send my photograph and answer this thing or that thing, and just having me be part of that team freed up 2 hours every day where he didn't have to do that kind of work that he didn't enjoy and was taking time away from the things that he really wanted to spend his time doing.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
man, I respect the work that you do. You're changing people's
Thank
lives.
you.
I just can hear, Taylor, I'm sure you can too, just like the hundreds of people that are like, if somebody would just do this stuff for me, my life would be so much better. And, Taylor and I's response is always like, well, that's not us. Like, we support you, but like, we can't. So I'm
Yeah.
really happy that there are people out there like you that are willing to just get their hands dirty and help these people so that they can do the stuff that they feel called to do. And everybody wins in that
Yeah.
scenario.
Well, you guys have a phenomenal, the Zoho One setup that you've created is incredible, but it still takes some following up. Like
Influence.
somebody has to send those emails out. They're not going to get sent out themselves. Somebody has to do the contract and figure out where there's things that were not aligned up, and iron those out and negotiate those out. And as great as all the systems are that you've created, there still is somebody who needs to understand that system and execute on that system and know that process from beginning to end, and make sure that none of those details get dropped, so that it's a really great experience, and that the client doesn't need to ask. That's another thing that I think is really great about working with me, is that I am always anticipating, because I know what the client's needs are, and I'm getting them things before they even need to ask for them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's what
Well,
everybody
makes you
needs.
referable.
That's
Yep.
exactly right. Yeah,
Yep.
totally. Man, Amy, what a cool episode. Thank you for like dissecting all of this with us. I don't think we've gotten a chance to like talk about like the workings of a speaker manager business like this. So thank you for providing all of that insight. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more, connect with you, like what's the best way for them to do that?
Right, both on my website as well as on LinkedIn. It's Amy, Amy Tomczyk, which is Tomczyzyk. So I'd love to connect with people and answer any questions that they have individually, set up a call to learn more about their business and their goals. And I just thank you so much for the time today. It's really been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've learned a ton, and I mean, there's just nothing better about running a podcast than Austin and I being able to not be so stupid anymore. So thank you for helping out with that. All right, guys. Look, all of the links to Amy's website, LinkedIn profile, as you know, it's in the show notes. And if you like this episode, don't forget to rate it, like it, subscribe to it. If you want more awesome resources like this, go to speakerflow.com/resources.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in today. Check the show notes for more info and see you next time. Later.